But man, I went into this Final Four thinking that Indianapolis was the king of all host cities for the Final Four. Had been to two of them before. They did a great job out there in each of those. San Antonio may be as good, if not better, with the Riverwalk and kind of like that New Orleans. That was what was so great about going to play in the Sugar Bowl all those years. Is like you knew everybody was going to be in the French Quarter. You knew everybody was going to be on Bourbon Street. And then we go out to the Fiesta Bowl in that sprawling, Phoenix area, and nobody's in the same spot. So I thought San Antonio provided, a great host city and experience for all of us that made that trip.
Another Duly Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome into another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at the Hacienda. We appreciate everybody for listening or watching. Chris Doering is going to join us today. We always love having Chris on. We'll talk to him about his experience at the Alamo Dome and also what he thinks of where Florida is football-wise. Coach Spurrier on Monday. My guest next Thursday, it's kind of funny. I had somebody that I thought would be great for you guys, and I'm not going to mention names or affiliations or where that person is. And I thought it would be absolutely spectacular to have on, but this person told me that 2 months ago the network came to her and said, no more podcasts. We don't want you doing any podcasts. It's almost like it's spring training. I'm sorry, spring games. We don't want to show our spring games on TV because then you'll poach our talent. Well, this is a very talented person who's gonna be big one day, even bigger than she is right now. So anyway, so I couldn't get her on. I have a call into a former Gator that I'm waiting to hear back from his school whether they'll allow him to go on a podcast. It's just, but here's the thing, and it's so funny. Everybody's got a podcast. We know that. And look, I'm not more entitled to have a podcast than anybody else is. Of course not. Why? Because I retired? No, I don't. I'm not any more entitled to it. I think I do know a little more than some people do. People ask me my opinion every day. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But anyway, and I do have a couple of other feelers out, and we'll see who we get for Thursday. We'll let you know Monday who that is. Today on the show, we will be making a pull for a $25 gift certificate at Leonardo's at Millhopper. I was actually there yesterday with another one of our great sponsors, of course, Adam from Adam's Rib. We went to lunch and had a great talk and talked about everything that was going on here and everything. So anyway, I've taken care of all the housekeeping, I think, for right now. Let us move along and have our Royal Blue starting five brought to you by Royal Blue. Randy Royal does a great job over there, and it is a place to go if you need a boat. And certainly we appreciate him being the sponsor of our starting five, because these are the five biggest stories in our little neck of the woods. Not always necessarily nationally, but in our little community here. So let's go to number one, our Royal Blue starting five. And that was the good news. That was I think most people kind of thought it would happen, but it did happen that Xavier Lee is coming to Florida. He's committed to Florida. He is, of course, a point guard from Princeton, average about 16 a game. Really good player at that level, and we'll see what he can do at this level. And look, I'm not going to disparage him, or I'm not going to pump him up either. If Todd, what you have to do is trust your coach. And it's a lot easier to trust your coach when he just won a national title with 3 transfer guards. Okay, so you kind of believe in him. I would hope you do at this point. But if that's the guy they wanted, and that's the guy they got, then I'm happy, and I'm sure he'll do fine. I will say this, though: you never know with portal guys and transfer guys how it's going to work out. It feels like Todd Golden has a way better grip on it than Mike White did. Now, Mike White really wasn't as much in the portal world. It was more of trying to get grad transfers who could play right away. And, a bunch of them that came in here just didn't pan out. I mean, Kerry Blackshear was not bad, but he wasn't everybody thought he would be the X factor that would make Florida great again in basketball, and he really wasn't. But anyway, none of this matters, and what matters is that he is coming, and that is going to be good. They needed a point guard, but please do not compare him to Walter Clayton. They are different players. There are very few people like Walter Clayton in the world, and I'm talking about the NBA. Guys who can hit that many clutch shots, who can take the ball from underneath the basket, run it out, and then turn around and shoot a three and knock it down in a huge point in the game. Ice in his veins. We all know. Look, we love Walter, and Walter needs to have his jersey retired, I think. But the point is, they're not replacing Walter Clayton. They're replacing his position. And they're after a couple of other guys we'll get to in just a minute. But, that's a big get for him. The 3 trips he took were to St. John's, Kansas, and Florida, and he went to Florida. Now, that's a pretty big deal, I think. So it's good that they got him, and they're going to continue to work on that. Let's talk about number 2 on our Royal Blue starting 5, which is the fact that Alex Condon, we all knew this was happening. I don't know why it broke his news yesterday, and it was like 3-day-old news, but Alex Condon testing the waters in the NBA. He's still going to, keep his eligibility available. My gut is he'll come back, but I don't know if he wants to go and he thinks he gets a good grade. Go. I mean, you've done nobody on this team who leaves am I going to ever be mad at, because you guys did enough. You did it. You did what we didn't think was possible. And that's pretty incredible. So, I mean, they're still in the mix for a couple other guys. There's a guard. I tried to read this because I don't have my glasses on. A.J. Brown from Ohio, who is an Orlando kid. They're after him. He's another big guard. And the other kid is, I can't read his name. Cedric Coward. That's right. He is from Washington State. Now, in the case of Washington State, Shinyulu can talk to him about how good it's been here and how much he's enjoyed it. In the case of Xavier Lee, Thomas Houck, who played with him up in Canada, and they knew each other. So that was certainly a benefit. They took him out the other night to the White Buffalo, which is a student bar, and had a good time. So anyway, it's still all coming together. And every time you would read about, this guy went there, and just don't worry about anybody who's going anywhere, including people who are coming here. I mean, look, if that's who they're targeting, you either trust the coach or you don't. And I trust this coach, and for good reason. He just wasn't a national type at 39. Okay. So anyway, let's move along from that. But it is kind of an interesting time over there at the Hugh Hathcock practice complex. Number 3 on our Royal Blue starting 5, and let me say it this way. I threw this out on the radio yesterday, and it went nowhere. And I thought this would be a 2-hour people going back and forth talking about it, blah, blah, blah. Went nowhere. But I'm going to throw it out here, and just curious what some of you think about it. And but it is something that I believe. And it's this. For me, when you think about your expectations going into last basketball season and your expectations going into this football season, aren't they about the same? Now, it is easy for you to say, no, I knew they were going to be in the Final Four. Okay. I'm talking about before the season, before they ever suited up, before you got to see that Clayton had made the transition to point guard very effectively, before you got to see just how good, much better they were going to be defensively, all that, and they could go on the road and beat anybody. Before you got to see all that, when the season started, you were probably, your confidence level was maybe a 6 or a 7, at best. And with an 8 being, I think we can make a decent run. With a 9 being, I think we get a chance to be in the Final Four, and a 10 would be, I think we can win it all. I think you're about a 7, maybe a 6, 6.5. I think most fans were. They were like, I think we're going to be pretty good, but I mean, it's a tournament and everything. I think that's where you are with football right now. You feel kind of the same way. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to translate the same way. We all know that. Football's a different animal. It's even, but you can't tell me that the football schedule is harder than the basketball schedule was. I mean, you got 13 teams or 14 teams into the tournament. So it was a harder schedule in basketball than it will be in football. And as we know, it's hard in football. I've already said a million times, it's harder this year than it was last year in football. But anyway, I think my point is that you guys probably feel about the same way going into this football season. You're cautiously optimistic, is the best way to put it. And I mean, we talked about this Monday. I love the running back room. I think the offensive line is going to be good. I love the wide receiver room, blah, blah, blah. It's all going to be up to Lagway and what his health is and whether he can come back and do things and stay healthy during the season. And that's what it's going to come down to. They're a playoff team with Lagway. They're not a playoff team with Harrison Bailey. They're an okay team, but that's the point. So, I feel pretty good about this football team, like I felt pretty good about this basketball team. And maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the only one who sees these similarities. But I'm seeing them. Either way, I'm seeing them. And they both have young coaches who are both hired by Scott Strick. I can go on all day. All right, let us move along to our Royal Blue starting 5, number 4. And that is what baseball was able to do on Tuesday night. Winning 14-4 over Stetson. Stetson's a pretty good team. They're 13-2 in their conference. So to win that game was good for the RPI. The interesting thing to me, I was just curious. So I went and looked at the D1 bracketology, basically. And I'm looking through it, and I logged to it twice. And I go, wait a minute. They say 13 teams from the SEC are in. And then Florida's not one of them. That can't be. I went back to it again. Yeah. They don't even have them in the first 4 out. Now, a lot of it has to do with the schedule's a little soft. They're not getting any help from Miami, believe me. Miami's RPI is 52nd. So that's not helping you at all. And winning 2 out of 3 at home from them is not helping you one bit. Now, FSU is like 13, so that is helping them, but they still need to get some big wins on the road and still need to win some series. The thing that's hurting them is 4 wins in the SEC right now. Jeff and I have talked about this a lot. We think they need to get to 12 wins. They got to win 8 more SEC games to be a tournament team and maybe host if you won 8 more, at least the first round. But it's going to be an uphill battle. I think they seem to have figured some things out and won these 5 straight. But they got to keep it going. When you look at the RPIs right now, 8 of the top 11 teams are from the SEC. So the opportunities are there. Now Mississippi State's not one of those teams, but their RPIs, you're not going to get a lot of bump even if you win the series against Mississippi State, but a little bit of bump maybe. Florida's 25th. In RPI. Now, you're telling me that the 25th team in RPI isn't getting into the tournament? Well, if you're 4-12 in the league, yeah, you may not be able to get in. So they've just got to win some games going forward, especially conference games. It's almost like the non-conference games that are left don't even matter. I mean, they've done a good job with non-conference games this year. But they got to win some conference games. They got to go win this series to start out with. It's getting late, and you've got 4 SEC wins, so you got to get it going. Let's see what happens there. All right. Let's go along. Let's move along to Mississippi State, by the way, is 38 in net ranking. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. So that's why I just noticed I wrote that down somewhere. All right, let's get to number 5 on our Royal Blue starting 5, and that is the big story nationally, but everybody's paying attention to it because it affects every school, every NIL deal, everything that's going on in the world of college football, and that is, of course, Nico Iamaleava, Luva, whatever his name is. I even heard Christine Lisi mispronounce his name on. It's hard. It's a hard name because it's Iamaleava, I think. There may be Leva. But whatever it is, it's Nico, is what I'm going to say. Well, Nico apparently is going to go to UCLA, and he's not going to get the kind of money he hoped for from everything everybody's reporting. It's still not a done deal, but it probably is by the time you listen to this. The funny thing was Colin Coward had a tweet up that Nico is going to UCLA, I've been told. And it's not about the money, it's about the Vols offense. And then somebody pointed out that Tennessee's offense was 17th in the country last year and UCLA's was 115th. So it clearly is not this is the story that's out there now, is that his dad and this guy, Cordy Landers, I think his name is, who used to be at Florida, he was here like in the personnel office here for a year, I guess. Is advising him, and that they wanted they were telling this is where you start to lose your mind, but they were telling Josh Heupel, look, you've got to get better receivers and better linemen. What are you going to do to help my son be a better quarterback? And they didn't feel like they addressed it well enough so far, so that's why he wanted to get out. That's why in January he wanted to get out. But it is crazy. Look, the whole story is crazy, but everything about college football is crazy right now. You have 2 free agency periods. Even the NFL doesn't have that. Anyway, it's just nuts, but we'll talk more about that a little bit later. Let's go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, Chris Doering is going to join us. Of course, you know him well, All-American. You also know him for his work on the SEC network. And if you haven't heard him on Sirius, he's great on there, except when he's hoarse from cheering on the Gators and basketball. We'll talk to him when we come back. You are watching or listening to I almost said the tailgate. You are watching or listening to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Hacienda at Meldon Law's Gator Studio. Here are just a few reasons why doing business with the Royal Blue puts you at the helm of your boating lifestyle. 1, the longer we have your listing, the lower percentage commissions you will pay. 2, survey reimbursement for qualified buyers. 3, detail reimbursement for qualified sellers. 4, on-the-water delivery orientation availability. Call us today to schedule a consultation to see what Royal Blue can do to solve all of your boating needs. Call Randy at 850-974-1294.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Fight Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Hey, I'm Pat Dooley, and I'm using a sterile compounded medication prescribed through BMI TeleMed. The medication contains the same active pharmaceutical ingredient as FDA-approved Wegovy, but is compounded with vitamin B6 to help with nausea, with some patients experience to some degree. My prescription comes from a licensed sterile compounding pharmacy, which is regulated by the Florida Department of Health and Board of Pharmacy. Compounded medications like mine are an alternative option when manufactured brands are in shortage or unavailable for many patients through their healthcare plans. Look, it worked for me once. I'm trying it again. Okay, and welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Studios, and we appreciate bringing on our next guest, one of my best friends, and of course, a legend in the University of Florida, the great Chris Doering. And I'm a little disappointed, Chris, because
why?
I thought you'd come on shirtless today because
That's only Fridays.
Your guns.
That's Shirtless Friday. Actually, Shirtless Friday did become a thing during COVID on our Sirius XM show. I mean, it was COVID rules. You could do whatever you wanted to do. And there were times we were recording it back in the day. And so it was only an hour show. And we would record like 42 minutes of content, put the commercials in there, and we'd do it later in the day. So we'd be sitting out by the pool having cocktails and then, come in and do a show. It was like, there were a lot of pluses to COVID. Everybody was down on the pandemic. I think there were some things that were actually kind of enjoyable about it.
Yeah, well, yeah, there were. I played a lot of golf, and wrote a story about it for the Wall Street Journal about how golf needed to stay with us and keep people out there. And I don't know if they have or not, but I think maybe they have. We were talking about COVID the other day about how how good Michael Jordan's the Last Dance, the documentary was. And then I said, yeah, but you know what? We watched a lot of things during COVID we wouldn't watch. Tiger King would not have been a big story.
Tiger King was like the talk of COVID. What was the other one where Making a Murderer? What was the other one?
Oh, yeah, the Making of a Murderer, yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Anyway, we watched a lot because we had nothing else to do.
That's right.
All right. First of all, the first thing I want to talk to you about, Chris, and of course you have many jobs, as we know. Sirius XM. I listen to you all the time on that. You're on the SEC network. You're on. You have your mortgage business and do well on that. So, but I did want to ask you about going out to San Antonio. I still haven't been out there because every time Florida was about to go, they lost that game, and then this one we sent Kelsey out there instead. I don't know if you ran into her or not.
I ran into about every other Gator. It was an impressive number of folks that showed up to support this team, as they should have. But man, I went into this Final Four thinking that Indianapolis was the king of all host cities for the Final Four. Had been to two of them before. They did a great job out there in each of those. San Antonio maybe as good, if not better, with the Riverwalk and kind of like that New Orleans. That was what was so great about going to play in the Sugar Bowl all those years. Is like you knew everybody was going to be in the French Quarter. You knew everybody was going to be on Bourbon Street. And then we go out to the Fiesta Bowl in that sprawling, Phoenix area, and nobody's in the same spot. So I thought San Antonio provided, a great host city and experience for all of us that made that trip.
Yeah, I know you were there when I was there in Indianapolis for the tornado one.
Yep. Hey, we were talking about that the other day. Remember that Sunday? I think it was like Collective Soul and John Cougar Mellencamp and all of those guys that were in that Sunday.
The Bodines played. The Bodines.
It's Sunday, maybe the most fun day of at any sporting event. That's Sunday. If your team wins on Saturday, Sunday is an amazing day. We experienced it in 2014. I took my son out there to Dallas, and we lost to UConn. And Sunday was not a great day. We went to the sixth floor of the Texas School Book Depository and the zoo. And
you wanted to stay depressed. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. So this time, my son got some retribution, was part of the victory, and the experience. I keep describing it, Pat, as kind of a cathartic experience. The enjoyment of winning a championship was awesome, but the release of all this frustration that I think the Gator fans have had pent up for the last decade plus was very necessary.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And it's like all of a sudden it became Title Town again, just like that.
Overnight.
Yep. And only team to win 3 in basketball and football, all these different stats that started coming out, and it made a lot of sense.
And Pat, I'll say this. I think that this being around this league, like good athletic departments feed off of one another. And I honestly believe that the success that Florida football had at the end of the season in November was some of the positivity that carried over into basketball. And I think that this can carry over from the rest of this spring on until next year. Like it does. Like we had Billy Napier on the show this morning and just talking about the feel amongst the students on campus, their players, the fans. Like, all right, we got a little taste of this. Let's get back to having it all the time in all of our major sports.
Hey, all I know is baseball won 5 in a row after the national championship game.
How about that? Yeah, starting to heat up, and some of these teams always figures out a way to get the pitching staff right. So let's hope that continues as well.
Yeah, I want to ask you too about the spring game, and and here's something I've told people. They've got the pieces around Lagway. If Lagway can stay healthy, they've got a chance to be a playoff team.
Yeah.
If he doesn't stay healthy, they won't be a playoff team. It's basically one guy that's got to stay healthy.
They've had the pieces. The focus of this offseason was to continue to upgrade the pieces around DJ Lagway. And I think you saw on Saturday, they've done that. I mean, I've been out to practice a couple times this spring. The offensive line, extremely talented. They looked the part. I'd say both lines of scrimmage now look the part of an SEC line of scrimmage. You look at the running back. The running back room is probably 5 or 6 deep of really talented ball carriers. Yeah. Receiver-wise, hopefully you get Trey Wilson back as another piece of that offense that you need to be healthy. But you add J. Michael Sturdivant from UCLA, who looks the part. Dallas Wilson looks the part. Vernell Brown, the legacy, another Brown in the swamp is awesome. So I think they've done a nice job of accumulating nice complementary pieces to Lagway. But yeah, he's the straw that kind of stirs the drink. And I think there's a lot of people, rightly so, a little concerned with him. The rumors about, some sort of lingering sports hernia injury back to high school. Coach Napier confirmed that he would be fine. He'll be ready not only for fall practice, but be ready for the OTAs when those things start here in another month or so.
Yeah, but I mean, it is. You start throwing, and then all of a sudden your shoulder gets sore, and you have to take another few days off, and we'll just see. I hope I think it's a huge factor because I think they'll be fine defensively. They had a lot of guys out for that game, but I did see another legacy guy, Miles Graham, was very good.
Would you agree?
Legacy guys. I mean, Lawrence Wright's got a kid on the team now.
Lawrence Wright, Willie Jackson. I mean, there are tons of former players that have guys on. And I honestly love that. You know how much it meant to me to play at Florida, growing up a Gator fan and having that bred into me. Each of those guys probably has the ability to tell everybody else on the team what it means to be a Gator. And I think what you're seeing now is a group of guys that are hungry to win. They've come in with a purpose. Lagway does a great job of requiring the focus, the accountability that he brings. Like, it seems like these guys aren't out partying every night. They're not necessarily getting caught up in all the peripheral stuff. It's about winning games. And I think that's exactly how it should be, particularly for the team that took a step that now needs to build on it. I just worry about them being ready to go. They looked like they were not prepared last year against Miami or A&M in the first month of the season. What are you going to do differently this year, Coach, to make sure that your guys are much more ready to hit the ground running?
Well, you played the Long Island Sharks.
That'll help. That'll help. But you got that. The schedule. How weird is it with LSU now in September, with Tennessee in October? It just feels weird with the way the schedule falls.
It would have been great to have Tennessee early this year, where they don't even know who the quarterback's going to be now.
I know. I thought they'd take a step back anyway, and now with the Nico Iamaleava situation, I still think that they are a team that takes a step back. But how about this league, Pat? Man, the win total for every team not named Texas is 9.5 or fewer, and I think you're going to see a bunch of 9-3 teams like we had last year. I think the thing that the college football world and the committee has to understand is that 9 wins in the SEC is different than 9 wins in the ACC or the Big 12. You have to figure out how to make that comparison. And I as much as I was against the 4-team automatic berth for the Big 10 and the SEC, I've kind of grown to understand that, particularly when you look at what SEC gets in 14 of 16 teams into the NCAA basketball tournament. They get 10 of 16 in the women's side, and yet we only get 3 of 16. What is that, 18%? Of the conference gets into the football playoff. It has to have more in there. It has to mean something to play the type of schedule you play in this conference.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. And that's the thing I've told people. In my opinion, this year's schedule's tougher than last year's. Because all those home games you had that were fun are now on the road, and that's going to be very difficult. But
you know what though, Pat? It was such a topic of conversation last year that I don't think people are blinking an eye. I don't think the players are blinking. We went through it last year.
The players want to play good. Yeah.
And I love that mentality. And so I'm excited for this season. you mentioned our friendship, man, and I've admired you for a long time, and I've read your column for a long time. And one of the things I always remember you writing about is like one season doesn't carry over to the next season. Every college football season is a new season in and of itself. And so I'm worried about how you keep that November momentum going into the next year with all the turnover and things that are going on in college football. Like capturing momentum in sports is very difficult to do.
And that, had changes in coaches and everything like that. So, but that's the thing. Let me ask you this question, because I posed this question earlier and I posed it on radio yesterday, and I can't seem to get any traction on it. To me, the way Gator fans feel going into this football season is not that dissimilar from what they felt going into basketball season. Going in now. Because going in, people weren't thinking we're going to win the national championship. And I think people think this is a playoff team. And that, they were hoping the basketball team would get into the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think the natural progression after winning 8 games is that you do take that step forward. And, if you get to 9 games in the SEC, you got a chance to be a part of the playoff field. And so I do think that's why getting off to a fast start is so important. You don't have the luxury of putting your I've never seen a team dig themselves out of a hole like Florida did last year. That's a credit to the coaching staff, but it's already also an indictment too. Like, why weren't you at that point playing like that from week 1? So you can't have the throwaway games. Like, I look back to last year. How in the hell does Ole Miss lose to Kentucky? Kentucky gets their only SEC win against an Ole Miss squad that, if the Rebels win, is in the playoff, and that one game kept them out of the ultimate destination. So this league, you can't have the lapses, you can't have the giveaway games like Ole Miss had, like Alabama did at Oklahoma, like the blowout loss at home South Carolina had to Ole Miss. All of these things are part of your resume that matter at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only is every season a different season, every game's is its own game, and I don't believe in the transitive property. All right, Chris Doering is coming to you on the Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line. It is time for us to play Yes, No, Way, or Maybe with Chris, brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak, street dining done the right way. If you go in there and say, hey, I was listening to Chris Doering on the Dooley podcast, you get free fries with your order. Maybe even a free Coke, too, if because it's Chris Doering you're mentioning.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, No, Way, or Maybe, Chris. Number 1. You have thought about in your life how your life would have been different if you dropped Doering's Got a Touchdown.
Not only yes, hell yes, I have. And I did an interview last night talking about that play. And you go back and watch it. The ball seems to hang in the air forever.
Yeah.
That was 3rd and 10 from the 28-yard line. That little cover 2 post is designed to be hit at about 18 to 22 yards. Danny threw it to, about right at the goal line. So about a 28-yard throw that hangs in the air forever. This speaks to how unlikely I was a target in that position. That the safety's completely split. Jack Jackson's on the right, Harrison Houston, Aubrey Hill on the left. Like, they had no idea that they were going to be throwing to the skinny white dude down the middle of the field in that situation.
Did you line up as like that split tight end?
Yeah, I was in the Y spot there. So it was Bandit Right, Blue Slide, Steamers, Y7 with me running that little cover 2 post. And, we ran the same play the play before. Fortunately, I got held and almost made a great one-handed catch. It didn't stick, and the clock would have run out. So things happened the way they were supposed to. And I did, in fact, catch that ball, which changed my life.
Yeah, no, the only reason I bring that up is because Spurrier and I were talking about it the other day. We were joking about it back and forth. What would he be doing now? And I was like, well, I don't know. He wouldn't be under a bridge somewhere.
No, but certainly wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today.
Yeah. All right. Number 2 on Yes, No, Way, or Maybe. Chris Doering, you are a better player at highlight than Judd Davis is.
Oh, there's no question about that. I'm the winningest highlight player in the history of highlight, with playing a one-on-one highlight for as many games as we did for a 10-year period of time. There is no doubt my record is far better than what Judd's is.
Well, you got the link too. You got the, you get up there.
I mean, let's be honest. I'm a better athlete. You're talking about a receiver against a place kicker. I mean, he's got to be probably plus 400, just going in the odds of playing against a receiver. Any kicker would be an underdog against a wideout.
What about McAfee? Would he be one?
I mean, he's probably more of an athlete than Jeff's not a bad athlete. I don't want to down talk his athleticism, but I'm not letting a kicker beat me or a punter in any athletics venture.
Or sports writer, because you came and blocked my shot that one day.
That's true. I'm a kid. I got booed in the Swamp Shooters for blocking a female shot. She had hit 2 threes, and I'm like, we're not doing this anymore. So you know how competitive I am.
Oh, I know, believe me. All right, finally on Yes, No, Where, or Maybe. I see those jerseys back there, which are really cool looking. You have a jersey from either the Carolina Cobras or the LA Avengers.
That would be no, I do not. Just given the backstory on that, remember, I tore my Achilles out in Denver in my second year there. I tried to come back the next year. I wasn't ready. I got cut in camp. I was out of the league. Nobody was wanting to sign me at that point in time. So I signed with the Carolina Cobras in the Arena League in an effort to get back into the NFL. I was the only person in Gator Nation that was actually happy about Coach Spurrier leaving Florida and going to the NFL a couple months later, because I knew it would guarantee me an opportunity again. I was one of the first players that he signed in Washington, and it revitalized my career. So I never played a game for Carolina, and then I guess Carolina folded at some point in time, and they had my rights, and so the LA Avengers got my rights. But badge of honor that I never actually had to play a snap of football in the Arena League.
You never even put on a jersey.
I never was in camp with them at all. I mean, that's a league that was not made for me because, I don't like tackling people, having to play both ways, getting hit against walls, that turf. Go ask Travis McGriff. Travis
I was going to say it was made for Travis McGriff.
Yeah, Travis was a great player in that league, but also I think he has some lingering health issues because of playing on that turf and some back injuries that he incurred.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to get thrown into it. It's not like it's kind of like it's pro wrestling. You get thrown against a turnbuckle and they throw you out of the thing.
Yeah, it's great entertaining sport, but not one I want to play.
No. Chris, as always, it's a pleasure, man. It's good seeing you. We need to go out sometime.
Yeah, I look forward to it, Pat. You're my guy. Thanks for having me, and look forward to before too long, we'll be talking about SEC Media Days.
That's right. We will be. We'll be back with more of another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging from the Meldon Law Gator Studios right after this break.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, 2 things haven't. Our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. You know about the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in on Fridays for Nana's Fish Nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
All right, welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios at the Hacienda. Appreciate everybody for listening, for watching. Appreciate all of our great sponsors. In fact, I was contacted by somebody else who I hope we can get them on, but they were inquiring about sponsorships, and we've had several of those. And so, look, there's always room for you. We'll find room for you. I know it feels like we do a lot of things here with sponsors, but we want to. Sponsors are what makes the world go round, right? We appreciate them so much. So many of them are local friends of mine too, and actually Adam, who we went to lunch with the other day, is one. Great talking to him too. We got some other people we'll get on going forward that are going to be a lot of fun. All right. Let us get to our third segment, which, of course, we're going to kick off with Hesser and Kipkey. Of course, Hesser and Kipkey, the phone number to reach them at is 352-339-9920, or you could reach them at www.hklawfl.com for all of your workers' comp or family law needs. Hesser and Kipkey is the place to go. Let's start with number one, which is we had our first little round of the play-in games Tuesday and Wednesday. There's just something not exciting about it. And I know that there are people who have teams that they care a lot about. My team's Golden State, okay? And Golden State was playing at 10 o'clock. I'm not staying up for that. Now, if Florida was playing at 10 o'clock, I would stay up for it. If Kentucky was playing Tennessee like they did in the tournament, I stayed up for it. It was a very late game. That's the thing. After the NCAA tournament, you can't recapture it, especially when your team's the one that went all the way. Your team's the one that played in the last game. You can't recapture that feeling, that excitement by watching just basketball. And that's what the NBA is, just basketball. It's the teams that aren't good playing. Didn't have good years, including Billy Donovan's Bulls, who got knocked out last night and didn't look good doing it at home. But boy, when I was looking at their lineup, I was looking through the starting lineups and I was like, oh my gosh, poor Billy. But anyway, look, I do like playoff basketball, but I will like it when we get to game 7s or game 5s. I just don't, there's no immediacy after we watched college, after we went through that whole thing, and I watched about every game there was, but we went through that whole thing with college basketball, and there was just an amazing urgency in every possession. Here you're sitting there going, they're down 15. They can come back. I'll check back with it later. Anyway, that's just my opinion, but it's my opinion, and it is my podcast. So let's move along to number 2 on our Hesser and Kipkey 3 things. Big news out of Tallahassee, Florida A&M. In this case, Charlie Ward's our new basketball coach, and that is an interesting hire. Now, he's been a coach before. He's not one of these guys who's just stepping off, coaching his Pee Wee team and coaching. He was on the staff, I think, with the Knicks, right? But anyway, I think it's a smart move. I mean, Charlie Ward's a hero still in that community. There's no doubt about that. And we'll see how he does. I hope he does well. I got nothing against Charlie Ward. He had one little statement there where he kind of got, may have gotten, he says it was taken out of context. He said the Jews were stubborn, all this stuff. But anyway, that was a long time ago, because I remember talking about it on my 2001 radio show. That's how long ago it was. That feels like ancient times, doesn't it? Anyway, so Charlie Ward, we'll see how he does. I mean, the guy is he's such an interesting story in that he was a better basketball player and played in the NBA than he was a football player, and yet he was a quarterback on a national championship team and won a Heisman Trophy. That doesn't seem possible, but it's true. And I was there. I witnessed a lot of it, believe me. All right, let's get to number 3 on our Hesser and Kipkey 3 things. I want to make sure we didn't gloss over this. Women's tennis beat Alabama in an incredible match. Alicia, I can't read my writing sometimes. Dudene won her 11th straight match, and it was the last match, and she had to win it for them to advance. Now, Florida's women's tennis is not great this year. They're under 500. But they won this match, and that gets them into the next round. And so give them a lot of credit for doing that. She won her, like I said, her 11th straight match. And they now play Vanderbilt at 4 o'clock today. I don't think it's on TV anywhere, though. And also to women's golf, who qualified for match play in the SEC tournament, and they play LSU. Florida was kind of out of, was a shot or two out of the cut behind the cut. And then they really played well yesterday. Really played well. I had a 67 from one of the young ladies, or 66. So anyway, I just want to make sure we gave them the proper attention. Because a lot of those things aren't on TV and everything. So that is our Hesser and Kipkey 3 things. It is time for us to talk about Los Linderos tequila. We love Los Linderos tequila. We love to drink it, and we love to talk about it. It is Urban Meyer is part of the ownership group there, so he's having a great time with that as well. Go beyond with Los Linderos tequila, and we'll do our smooth move of the week, which is very simple. The only way that Shedeur Sanders could ever get his jersey retired by the team he played for would be if his dad did it. So his dad is doing it. Now, Travis Hunter is getting his jersey retired as well. Travis Hunter deserves to get his jersey retired. He won the Heisman, okay, as a two-way player. Yes, you retire that guy. I don't think you need to do it now. He doesn't even know where he's going to go play in the NFL. You could wait a little bit, but like a few years is what I'm saying. But Shedeur Sanders was a really good quarterback on a mediocre team. There's a million of them out there. People are talking about why, Cordell Stewart, you could have definitely retired his jersey. He won more games, won more bowl games, everything. But this is a smooth move because I'm the coach. You just gave me a lot of money to keep me as your coach. You love me. You don't want anything to ever change. You want me to run this entire town, and I'm going to retire my son's jersey. I'm surprised he didn't retire his other son's jersey, who wasn't even a good player. Shiloh, is that his name? Anyway, it's a smooth move by Deion Sanders. Okay, we appreciate Los Linderos. Let's move along to our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. And, of course, because I had lunch with Adam on, so that would have been Wednesday. Yeah. I said, hey, here's how I'm going to make Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. And he said, that's perfect. I said, okay, I wanted to get your approval. But it is Bobby Boser, who, if you didn't see last week, Tuesday, hit 3 homers against Stetson. Ironically, 10 years to the day after J.J. Schwartz had hit 4 against Stetson. And he came up with a chance to hit his 4th, and I can't remember what he did. He popped out or flew out, made it out anyway. But that still was pretty cool. And that's the kind of, look, if Boser can get going, and then you have to start pitching around him, and he's batting in your leadoff, so you can't pitch around your leadoff guy. And this is the makings of something that could be good for Florida, and we'll see how it goes forward. Everything you do in the midweek is great, and we all appreciate it because we suffered through the midweek last year. It was miserable. It's fun this year, but you still got to do it in conference play, or it's not going to matter. You're just playing for kicks and giggles, okay? So you got to get it done in the conference. So Bobby Boser is our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. Let us move along to our Leonardo's at Millhopper. Quick pick. No quick pick today. We're just pulling a winner. And I've got them all written down here. We had a lot of people get the last 2 right. You picked Florida would win 2 games in softball last week, and you picked Golden State. Well, many people. I mean, I think there must have been 22, 23 people that qualified just on those 2, and then qualified. We ended up qualifying 49 people. So I've got them written down here in a random order. So I'm just going to ask for a number between, and I mix them up, between 10 and 59 from Zach. I just need a number from between 10 and 59. 38. That used to be, I think that was Alvin Butler's number when he played at Florida. 38 is Jeff Levine. Jeff, I don't think Jeff Levine's won before. Right? That's good. I like it when people, I like it when our regular listeners and dudes get pick it. By the way, my friend Angie Sapp, I know you listen to podcast all the time. We went out with them Friday night over to Spurrier's, had a great time. Ran into Ernest Graham and Terry Jackson and got pictures taken with them, and it was great. Well, you need to get in the contest so you could win $25 at Leonardo's. Jeff Levine just did that, and he won $25 at Leonardo's. Just send me your information. I'll mail you the gift certificate, and I appreciate everybody who got into our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick pick. All right, let us move along to our BMI TeleMed Smart Move of the Week. BMI TeleMed, your weight loss specialist, and they do such a great job over there. Get a hold of Charlie at 727-383-1677. Again, we've had many people get hooked up with this, and they do a great job. I'm doing it right now, and as you can tell, my shoulders are a little bit less fat, but that's what I'm working on. All right, our BMI TeleMed Smart Move of the Week, and I'm going to go. I hate to go all the way back to Sunday, but the story came out during the week, and it was pretty interesting. And that's Bob Rotella, who's well known for being a kind of a psychiatrist to the sports athletes and gets them thinking in the right way. In fact, he worked with Billy Donovan on some guys too, and some different ways to motivate your team, especially coming off a national championship as they did. I'm sure that's a call that Todd Golden will have with Billy Donovan about how do you, when you're trying to repeat, how do you deal with it? And again, don't think of this team as being a team that's going to repeat. Just think of it as being a team that you are going to want to watch and enjoy. You know what Florida style is. You know what Todd Golden does. And I think right by now, because so many of you watch so many games, you understand what is going on here, and you're really ready to watch it again. And if it doesn't go all the way, it's okay. It's okay. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So Bob Rotella is Rory's guy too, and they even said before they were getting ready to, or I guess when Rory was finishing up his Saturday round, that I'm sure he's going to talk to Bob Rotella tonight. And I mean, he did. And what he did was tell him, don't look at any scoreboards, don't talk to anybody, don't engage with the fans, focus, just be laser focused. So when DeChambeau had his feelings hurt because he never talked to Rory, I get what Rory was doing, and it worked, and he won, and I was glad. But yeah, I mean, when you bottle it all in like that too, it's going to come out on the green when you do it. But he won the Masters. He won the Grand Slam. He's the first foreign player to win or European player to win the Grand Slam. I think it worked, and it certainly was our BMI TeleMed Smart Move of the Week. Let us get our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week. And, I think it was, I'm going to go with Dallas's defense last night in the basketball game, the NBA game. They forced 18 turnovers against Sacramento. And the thing is, you don't get a lot. I mean, in the NBA, you look at the turnover totals, it's 8, 9. It's not a lot of turnovers. Guys are just getting back on defense and waiting for you to go and make your layup or shoot your three. There's not as many turnovers as you see in the college game, usually. Certainly not in a women's game where you have a 23 turnover night and you go, yeah, we cut them down. No, but they forced 18 turnovers, so they were sponging up everything. They soaked up every turnover they could get, and it helped them win, of course, and advance in the NBA playoffs. So they are Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week, are the Dallas Mavericks defensively. All right, let's move along to This, That, and the Other. We love our This, That, and the Other. It's brought to you by Dark Shackow Insurance. We love our Dark Shackow Insurance, and we love our Ballyhoo Grill. I was just in there for a beer the other day, and it wasn't night, it was day. That's why I started to say night, and it came out as night. So the other day, I dropped in there and just had a beer and saw the peeps and had a good time. So, so our they bring you this, that, and the other. I'm losing trains of thought here a little too quickly. All right, our this, that, and the other is this. This is the NIL came along, and everybody was freaking out. In fact, I'll never forget Billy Napier at the Gainesville Quarterback Club saying, it's a bane of my existence. And yeah, it was. He's got it under control now, and that it seems like Florida's got a really good plan in place. But it's still for the fans, it kind of overwhelmed everybody. That is, well, it does seem to be settling down. We see this thing happen to Tennessee, and we can just kind of laugh at it and be okay with it and everything. And so I think people have kind of gotten to the point where they're not, NIL is just part of life, just the way it is. And the other is as follows. I get a daily reminder that it's not. And I mean reminders, plural, not singular. Everywhere I go, somebody says something about NIL. Somebody says something about, is it going to ruin the sport? And look, I understand. I share your concerns about it. My approach has always been, I'm going to root for the laundry, that this NIL stuff is a wild, wild west. They've ruined a lot of kids' lives. That's what's going to eventually be found out. Oh yeah, this guy had all this NIL money, went out and spent it on stuff, and ended up never playing in the NFL because he was around the wrong people. All these kind of stories are going to be, believe me, there's going to be the 30 for 30 is going to be on the first guy who doesn't pay his taxes. So anyway, every day I get multiple reminders that NIL still is resonating with fans in a negative way, and they want to just watch the old football the way it used to be. Well, that ship sailed. We all know that. It's going to be what it is, but it's okay that you give me constant reminders because I understand it is rough. It's still hard to deal with. And then you see the Nico thing, and who knows what other guys are getting, and no transparency, but it hadn't gone away. The angst of NIL has not gone away. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make here. All right. That is this, that, and the other, brought to you by Darshackow Insurance and by Ballyhoo Grill. We appreciate them. All right. I did want to talk about the Gainesville Quarterback Club. Still working on that date for Billy Napier, but it is going to happen. And then you get Laura Rutledge and Billy Donovan. If you get a trial membership for $150, it's worth it. And you get a great meal too over there at the Best Western. I look forward to that every Tuesday night. In fact, I'm looking forward to it the next Tuesday night that comes along. But anyway, it's a great thing. The speakers are going to be incredible. Just trying to finalize some things. And once we get that, we're going to give you the whole speaker menu, and you're going to go, oh, I got to join that. You need to join. It's great fellowship. It's great to be around the Gators, and great speakers, great food, great cocktails if you want a cocktail. It's just a good time. And I advise that you do it. And you get to hear me every week. Sometimes I'm funny. All right, let's move along. And we appreciate, as always, the Gainesville Quarterback Club, the oldest Gator club in existence. Let's get to our Hugh Cain Allstate Mayhem moment. The Gator Nation is in good hands with local Allstate agent Hugh Cain. Stop by Alachua Marketplace Plaza in Alachua and get a free quote today.
Let's go very high. Ball for another.
Yeah, this is a game. The Isotopes, the Albuquerque Isotopes, they get a walk with the bases loaded. But it becomes more than that because guys start running in and nobody's covering the base. And then they throw it away to the third baseman trying to get a guy. And it is what I have to say is the first one I've ever seen, a 3-run walk. Now, I don't know that I've ever seen that before. And these guys look like they've never seen it, and they're trying to figure it out themselves. Of course, the pitch wasn't close, and the first guy comes in. You got to kind of keep your eye on this. And then the second guy tried to score because he just tossed it back to the pitcher. Then he threw it away down the third base line. Oh. Now, if you're the other team, which is the El Paso somethings, I don't know. I'm assuming ELP means El Paso on there. That's not the way to execute that play. Anyway, that is our Hugh Cain Allstate Mayhem moment. And that was a mayhem moment. Hey, that's one thing about baseball I've learned, because I thought I had seen everything, and then I saw a walk-off walk. No, I'm sorry, a walk-off strikeout. Walk-off strikeout. Florida was playing Georgia. This is many years ago, maybe 6, 7 years ago. And struck out a guy to end the inning, the end and bottom of the ninth. And the ball got a little bit away from him, though. So he had to throw to first. When he threw to first, he threw it away. Guy scored, walk-off, strikeout. You see everything in there. All right, let's wrap it up as we always do with our Swamp games of the weekend. We got a lot going on this weekend. And, of course, the place to watch these games is at the Swamp. They do a great job. Drink specials, food is tremendous there. And if you've not been to the Swamp since it moved, after it closed over there in University, it's exact replica of what it was, and a lot of cool memorabilia in there. Billy Horschel has a bag in there, and a bunch of guys signed stuff, and I'm sure they're going to get more and more in there because of this basketball team, right? And that is where my daughter watched a lot of basketball this year, I can tell you that much. All right, let's start off with baseball. Baseball plays Friday. In fact, today, Jeff's not going to be there, so Robbie's going to come in. In fact, I got to call him afterwards. 8 o'clock on the SEC network. So you got a late start because we're in a different time zone there. Again, they're playing Mississippi State. So Friday at 8 o'clock on the SEC network. Saturday at 8:30 on the ESPN. Yeah, actual ESPN. I don't see that a lot on these baseball games. And then Sunday, they do have a 3 o'clock game. It's on ESPN too. So it's all on real cable. You don't have to stream anything this week. So that's kind of cool. Softball plays today against Alabama at 6 o'clock. And that's at home, of course. SEC Plus, they play Friday at 6 o'clock on the SEC channel. And then Saturday at 2 on ESPN 2. So a lot of opportunities to watch Gator baseball and Gator softball this weekend. Gymnastics is actually going to be going, by the time you probably have already listened to this, at 4:30 on ESPN 2. And then if they qualify, they go Saturday. I think it's at 3 is when the finals will be, but you got to qualify. And it's kind of interesting, 4 SEC teams in there and Florida's draw. But hey, just go out and get your job done. Just be yourself. And that's what I know Jenny Rowan is famous for saying. You just got to be the Gators. If you're the Gators, we'll be fine. And that's what she tells them. And that's what if they can do that, they'll be fine. Lacrosse, Cincinnati is who they're playing at noon on Saturday. And Lacrosse having a great year, 13-2. They're in the middle of a 3-game homestand. They play Cincinnati. It's on ESPN Plus if you want to watch it. But go out there and support Mandy O'Leary and the great lacrosse team. And then the basketball, Friday night, Miami at Atlanta, 7 o'clock on TNT. And then Dallas at Memphis is 9:30 on ESPN. And then, of course, the big teams start playing on Saturday and Sunday. But I'm not even going to give you all that schedule because Saturday and Sunday, you have basketball from 1 o'clock to 11 o'clock if you want to watch it, NBA basketball. And so I'm going to get into it. I'm going to try to get into it. My Warriors, if they can just make a little run, I'll be a little bit happier. Look, the only reason I like the Warriors is I love Steph Curry in college, and I love him as a pro. I love watching him play. So I didn't have a team. I divorced the Lakers when they traded Shaq, and I needed to have a team, and that's the team I picked. So there. I can root for whoever I want. And by the way, if you've not watched that Celtics thing on HBO, it is awesome. And I don't like the Celtics, you know that. But it is one of the coolest things I've ever read or watched. It's just fascinating. And they do a tremendous job, as HBO always does with everything. All right. Another guy who does a great job is Zach Rothrock, who did a great job getting this done today. We appreciate him. We'll be back with Coach Spurrier on Monday. Until then, I am Pat Dooley for another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. I am deep, I am way back, and I am out of here.